May it please the viewers, I'm Rich Schoenstein. Been a while, but I wanted to check in and give some thoughts on this James Comey indictment, if you will allow me. And I want to I'm going to try to avoid taking it from a political perspective. I know that's hard to do here, and I think I'm going to make some comments that sound like I'm taking political sides, and I definitely have a political side, but I want to talk about the indictment, what's going on at the Department of Justice, and some related things that I really think we need to be concerned about. So, if you've been following the news, if you can peel yourself away from the trials and tribulations of Jimmy Kimmel, you will know that this week the government indicted James Comey, the former director of the FBI in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. Here's the indictment. It's 2 pages long. It is what we call wafer thin. Doesn't give a lot of detail or information. But basically, he's being indicted for supposedly making a false statement to Congress 5 years ago. He's being indicted because this says he made a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. Senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he, James Comey Jr., had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in a news report. And then it says that was false because he did authorize that person. And then it says that on September 30, 2020, he did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee. So as you know, people go in front of Congress all the time and say all sorts of things. And a lot of times people say things that sound crazy, sound wrong, you don't agree with, they're false. And I don't even remember anyone getting prosecuted for this kind of a thing, this kind of a statement. Certainly not a high-up government official in what was essentially a politically motivated hearing in the first place. It's a very strange prosecution, but we know exactly why it happened. It didn't come out of the blue. It didn't happen because there was some secret investigation and law enforcement decided to bring it. It happened because our president sent a tweet. The president sent a tweet the other day referencing Pam Bondi, the sitting attorney general, saying that he had reviewed 30 statements and posts saying same old story as last time. In other words, he's bothered by people saying they're not doing enough. He says nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. And then he goes on with some other information about that. Apparently, the lead U.S. attorney in Virginia didn't want to bring this case, didn't think it was meritorious, and quit. And so the administration appointed a lawyer with no experience in this kind of thing, no experience prosecuting anybody, as acting head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Virginia. And that is who has brought this case. Now, that may or may not concern you. It's my contention that it should concern you. The Department of Justice is supposed to represent the United States of America. It is an independent operation. It is not supposed to be doing the bidding of whatever political party is in power or whatever administration is in power. And sure, the administration has the power to make certain appointments, and the U.S. attorney is a political appointment. I get all of that. All of that is true. But the administration of justice, the selection of cases and the prosecution of cases is done by hardworking lawyers who do that kind of thing for a living, and they tend to act based on evidence and law and not politics and political aspiration. So to bring the administration so clearly into that process of selecting who to prosecute is troubling. And keep in mind that this administration is also involved in who not to prosecute. By way of example, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, was being prosecuted for violations of law, and the administration scuttled that and had the claim dismissed. And again, there, experienced line prosecutors, real hardworking folks with years of experience and skill, quit because they weren't being listened to. They didn't like the direction. So we've now lost a ton of very good prosecutors in multiple offices in what is supposed to be an administration dedicated to law enforcement. And it's my contention we can't just throw out these good people. By the way, we don't have a permanent U.S. attorney in the Southern District right now. We are still in the middle of that process. So now, after we get the indictment, we get another social media post from the president. All caps, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against the nation." Piling on and responding to criticism, FBI Director Kash Patel put out his own tweet. He said career FBI agents, intel analysts, and staff led the investigation into Comey and others. They called the balls and strikes and will continue to do so. The wildly false accusations attacking this FBI for the politicization of law enforcement comes from the same bankrupt media that sold the world on Russiagate its hypocrisy on steroids. I think I mispronounced like 2 words there, but you know what I'm saying. Their baseless objections tell us now more than ever that we are precisely over the target and will remain on mission until completion. Okay, so I have problems with these social media posts on 2 levels. First of all, they demonstrate really beyond any kind of argument that this is a politically motivated prosecution ordered by the administration, and that shouldn't happen. As I said, the Department of Justice is supposed to be independent. But here's the second problem. How's this guy going to get a fair trial? Traditionally, prosecutors do not publicly comment on the facts of a case. Government officials are not supposed to publicly comment on the facts of a case. So now you're going to bring a guy into trial, and the president of the United States of America has tweeted, "They're all guilty as hell." That's what he's tweeted. And he's tweeted a second time complimenting the prosecution. He has been so bad for our country. It's the beginning of being held responsible. And the head of the FBI is essentially tweeting. And that's not supposed to happen. Those public statements interfere with the right to a fair trial. By the way, the same thing is happening in the Luigi Mangione case. If you caught that this week, again, if you can peer away from the Jimmy Kimmel stuff for a minute, there's a motion in the Luigi Mangione case because government officials have been making public comments about his guilt. They're prosecuting him, but there are people, including the president, again, making comments about the man's guilt, and then people at the DOJ were retweeting those comments, and now Mangione's defense lawyers are saying that's not right. That's improper. We have to do something about it. And the judge is interested and is going to hear about this in more detail next week. But those kind of activities can lead to the suspension of these prosecutions. And they're very bad in any event. The government should not be taking a position in an individual criminal case on guilt or innocence. Obviously, the government believes that a crime has been committed because that's why the matter is being pursued. That's why the matter is being prosecuted. But they shouldn't be amplifying personal views into the jury pool. It's going to make it impossible for anybody to get justice. And whatever your politics are, whatever you think of James Comey, I'm not a huge fan of James Comey. I have some issues with James Comey. That's fine. Have whatever issue you want. But to pick him out and do a prosecution of a 5-year-old comment to Congress. And by the way, another thing, to me, this is a test operation. This is the administration seeing if they can prosecute their political enemies. We're going to start with this guy. Next, it's going to be Letitia James. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton next? Is it going to be somebody else? We heard they might seek retribution against their enemies, but if this kind of prosecution is permitted to go forward, there's no telling how many of these could be in the future. That's very troubling when the Department of Justice is supposed to be representing the United States of America. Obviously, we will keep an eye on this and related proceedings. Good to see you all, or I guess good to be seen. Hope you're doing well. We are adjourned.